to lift your head very far to feel whether it's difficult or not. Lift your head and put it down. And if you're not sure whether you need something, put one hand on your chin, put one hand on your forehead, and feel in your own bodily appreciation. Is the chin higher than the forehead? It might not be easy to tell. But then put your hand behind your neck and feel the amount of curve in the back of your neck. Is there a lot of curve back there? Is there very little curve? So you build up a set of sensory impressions. And then, if you want, put something under your head and then lift your head a little bit with a question in mind, always a question in mind. Is this lighter than last time? Is it heavier than last time? Is it easier than last time? Less easy than last time? Does it allow me to keep breathing? So you go ahead and find that for yourself over the next few minutes, please. Yeah, if the plane of the face is more or less level to the floor, that's the same position as I maintain, generally speaking, when I'm walking upright. The plane of my face is flat. So that's something that you're trying to recreate. Once again, it's just a rule of thumb, a heuristic, a general idea that you apply, and it might be useful immediately, but then there's things you can add to that, which we'll add at a different time. So now, keep going, and please do the baby bear, mother bear, papa bear thing. Too heavy, just right. Now, in this case, the situation you're trying to set up is where the muscles of the neck move the head in the most advantageous way. Okay, you've done that. Now I'm going to do something tricky because it complicates the situation. Place your arms on the floor above your head and form your limbs in that X shape. And now notice, with your limbs above your head, the scenario has changed. Lift and lower your head now. Is it as easy as it was before, or has it changed? Do you now need to change how much is underneath your head? So you see, nothing is constant. With each change in body configuration, there's a different set of circumstances that are needed. Now, this will be the position that you're going to be lifting your head mostly in this lesson, actually exclusively in this lesson. So get yourself comfy here so that you know you can lift your head easily. Yes, you'll be lying in the X. Now, I know that for some of you, having the arms up there is challenging. So you know what you can do. You can bring the arms down, pause for a while, come back, or you can bend the elbows a little bit so that it's a little bit easier on the arms. And for those of you that have tremendous amount of trouble, slide the arms down a little bit until you feel like, oh, that's much better just there. So they're not really above the head, they're above the shoulder line. That's fine. Give yourself some latitude. Or as they say in engineering, plus or minus tolerance. Okay. So now in this position, with your legs long, your arms above your head, or for some of you, above your shoulder line, please just imagine lifting your head and lowering it. Just imagine it. And pay attention to what it is that you imagine when you imagine lifting your head. What parts of yourself are you thinking of? Is it just the head? Is it just the head? And now several times, lift the head, lower it, and take a long pause. Then lift the head, lower it, take a long pause. And the long pause allows the muscles of your neck to completely release their work before you do the next repetition. Otherwise, you're just building one muscle tension on top of another muscle tension, so nothing really ever subsides. You just keep building and building and building. So let your head and whole self resettle onto the floor after every lift. Now, I'm not saying you should do every lesson like this, but it's a good strategy, a good tactic to keep in mind. Now, as you lift your head, think of lifting your head, moving the forehead as if you wanted to put it on the floor somewhere between your legs. So there's the direction, right? That's the trajectory. Think of taking the forehead as if you wanted to put it somewhere between the legs. It could be between the knees, could be between the shins, could be between the ankles, the heels, the thighs. Notice I'm not telling you to get there, but have that as an intent, a heading. And when you think of the head as being represented by the forehead, what's it like to lift the head? Just imagine, just imagine, just imagine. Oh, I didn't say it, did I? Just imagine, sorry. Give yourself time to conceive of it. Just imagine. So you're thinking of the forehead is on your head, and you're thinking of directing the forehead to some place on the floor between your legs. And now do that. You know, the forehead is just this name that we give to a place on ourselves that's located on the head. So you're still lifting your head, it's just that you're thinking of directing your forehead towards your destination. All right. leave the head down. And now bring all your attention to the chin. And really get a sense of where the chin is. If you need to use your hands to touch the chin and to identify through touch what the chin is, how it feels, please do that. And now imagine to yourself lifting your head, directing your chin to go to that place on the floor between your legs. Just imagine it. And for some of you, even if you're doing it in your imagination, you might be already detecting that the movement will be composed slightly differently, thinking of your chin rather than your forehead. Still the head, but a different part of the face and the head. Now, please, just a few times, maximum of maybe 4 or 5, lift the head, put it down, and feel what it's like leading with the chin. And then leave your head on the floor. Let yourself settle. And now bring all your attention to your mouth. And the mouth is located on the surface of the head. And think of yourself leading with the mouth to lift the head, to take the mouth to that part on the floor between your legs. And again, just do that movement, a maximum of 5 times, that's all. As if you wanted to bring the mouth to touch the floor between the legs. And notice whether your experience of lifting the head is different when you lead with the mouth. And then let the head be. Settle yourself again. And if you need to make adjustments with what's underneath your head, do that. And now let's go for one more part of yourself, one more part of your head that lies in the midline. So far, every part that I've mentioned is actually in the midline of your head. So now go for the nose. Bring your attention to the nose and think that you're going to lead with the nose to lift your head. And conceive of that as vividly as you can, not just in your visualization, but in your bodily sense, in the way that your body will change contact with the floor, in the directions you'll be moving through space. So there's a lot to create in your imagination. And then several times, lift and lower your head, leading with the nose as if you wanted to put the nose on the floor somewhere between the legs. Great. Let that be. And now let's go a little bit asymmetrical. Think of your left ear. Now the left ear is away from your midline. And think of lifting the head, leading with the left ear, as if you wanted to put the left ear on the floor somewhere between your legs. Even in your imagination, can you detect that there is something different in how you will compose this compared to either your chin or your nose or your forehead or your mouth? To put that ear on the floor between the legs requires of you to do something different with your head. Now, please go ahead and do that. Do what it is that you've been conceiving. And you'll find, even though you're minimally lifting your head, you can sense that the musculature throughout your whole trunk is starting to be involved. Let your head rest. Let yourself rest. And now think of the other ear. Think of the right ear. Think that you're going to lead the lifting of your head with the right ear as if you're going to put the right ear on the floor between your legs. And those of you that might have had some experience with marionette puppets, you know, where marionette puppets get their strings pulled and then they move. Yeah, it's like there's a string on your ear, and the string is going to pull you towards the floor somewhere to a spot between your legs. And please do that a few times so that you can physically taste what it's like. Okay, let that be. Rest. Now, I know it's close to lunchtime. And some of you might relate to this experience because it certainly relates to what you're doing here. What is your favorite food? Can you recall the taste of your favorite food? When it actually just, you take it and it's inside your mouth and those flavors just go, can you recall that? When you recall that, does something actually start to happen? Does the saliva start to increase? Is there some sort of physiological response? Now, the same thing happens with your imagination. Even though you're imagining, there is a physiological process going on. Your nervous system is already starting to warm up to the idea of doing the movement. So now let's return to this idea of leading with the left ear, to put the left ear on the floor between your legs. And as you imagine that, could you also imagine lifting your right leg from the ground long as it is? In other words, not bending the leg. So imagine lifting the head, leading with the ear, and imagine lifting the leg. And in your imagination, what timing works best? Head first, then leg. Leg first, then head. Head and leg together. So you could already do an elaborated rehearsal of possibilities and come up with an idea of what would be the lightest. And then you just go ahead and you do it. So do it. Just a little bit. Lifting the head, lifting the leg. And notice whether there's a kind of sensibility to this. Lifting the left ear and lifting the right leg. Is there some kind of body logic? So lower the head, lower the leg. And let's find out if there's any kind of logic to it. So still conceiving of lifting your head, leading with your left ear. Now imagine lifting your left leg. So the same leg as your ear. Just imagine it. So lifting the head, leading with the left ear. And as you do that, you lift the leg. Again, I would invite you to rehearse in your mental stage the possibilities of head and then leg, or leg and then head, or head and leg together. And go ahead and do that. And notice, is this different? Does the head lift in the way that you want it to? Does the left leg lift in the way you want it to? That enables you to put the ear on the floor between the legs? Or is the logic different through your trunk? And now do the complete contrast. Once, lift the head, lift the left leg, put it down, pause, and then once, lift the head, lift the right leg, put it down, pause. For you, at this time, which of these two patterns makes sense? Which one of these two patterns allows you to lift the head from the floor more lightly? Right. Let that be. Rest. Now you have one more ear to go. So now imagine lifting your head from the floor, leading with the right ear. And as you lead with the right ear, imagine lifting your left leg. Now when you lift your, you're now lifting the head, leading with the right ear. Yep. And go ahead and do that. Now, this is where your initial position makes all the difference. If your legs are apart, like in that X shape, it's going to feel a lot different to if the legs are so close together they're almost touching. So legs too close together affects things. Legs too far apart affects things. Another factor to think of. Correct. And notice, is that the leg that wants to lift anyway? So just be on the floor and pay attention to your two legs, the left and the right. Make sure that they're not too close together, that they help to form this X shape through you. And as you go to lift your head, notice which leg tends to get lighter on the floor. And the intent has to be really clear, that you're lifting your head as if you wanted to put the right ear on the floor somewhere between your legs, which is not on your right elbow and not on your right hip, but between your legs. And which leg gets lighter? So there is some sort of connection through you from the head, through the trunk, into the legs. But if you find that connection, makes the lifting of the head even lighter still. I think with that yawn, it's time to stop. Lie on your back, let your arms go down, rest yourself. Was that a yawn or was just that a nice out-breath? One more variation before we head off to lunch. Please lie in that X shape again. Leave your head lying on the floor peacefully. And think of lifting one leg off the floor. Just imagine lifting one leg off the floor. You choose which one. It could be the right, it could be the left. And imagine lifting that leg off the floor so that it just gets a little lighter and the leg stays long. The length of the leg is important. In other words, don't lift the leg by bending your knee. And now just start to lift that leg and notice, does your head get pulled off to one side? Does one ear tend to come more forward? Does the head start to get lighter from the floor? Do any of the above happen? Does one arm get pulled more than the other? In other words, you're feeling for the presence of any relationship between lifting of the leg and the connection up through yourself to the head, to the arm. Now lift the other leg. Just imagine lifting the other leg. Imagine lifting the other leg. Same inquiry. And some of you are probably already anticipating that the effect will be the same, but will it? Will the effect be the same? Are we truly symmetrical beings? Or as you're lying on the floor now, are you arranged in such a way that everything is equally distributed, right and left, all of this is going to affect things. Go ahead and lift the other leg. Find out what's the effect. The same as the other side, different to the other side. And if it's different, how is it different? Now, please lie in that X shape. And now you are able to reference something. You're able to reference that experience that when you lift your legs, that somehow connects up through you to your chest, your head, and your shoulders. So you now have a felt experience of connection from head to foot, from foot to hand, from hand to foot. Staying with that experience, could you roll yourself to one side and come up to sit all in one go? Ooh la la, nice. Now, if you want to go back, you can, but you don't have to. You can stand up, walk around, and walk around in such a way that you know you're going to go for lunch. Yeah? And it's like, okay, where's the food? Where's the food? So you can go from having an internal focus to having an external focus, and you can move through the world that way and still feel the connection of your legs to the trunk, to the head, to the arms,